everyone, welcome back. So, my brother James over at Harshman Hills was asking about how I flux and what I use. And so I wanted to, I've showed a lot of things with me casting stuff, and I might have mentioned a few times, but I don't think I've ever actually shown it. So I'm going to kind of tell you about what I know about it. There's a ton of information out there. There's different ways of doing it, but I'll just show you what I do. Okay, so if I'm doing like the little lead soldiers or fishing weights or the slingshot pellets for the video I put out before, I just use this little pot, and this is a Farberware pot. It's got a pretty thick copper bottom on it, and it conducts the heat very, very well. If I'm doing casting bullets, I use my Lee pot, the bottom pour pot. So again, as you can see, this is extremely dirty, old, been using this one probably about 7 years. Okay, so a couple terms. Dross, or dross, however you want to say it, D-R-O-S-S, is basically like the garbage that kind of floats up to the top, okay? You want to skim that out, and I'm going to show you that. And then flux. Flux is used, one of the most important things is lead is an alloy. So there's other metals melted into it, mixed into it. That's what makes an alloy. And there's certain metals that you want and certain metals you don't want, okay? Most of the time, unless you get very, very scientific and have the right equipment, to separate an alloy, and some of the ways of doing it is very toxic. You kind of don't mess with that when you're doing backyard forging, backyard smelting and casting and stuff like that. But I will say, take all precautions, use a ventilator, make sure you're outside, take all the standard precautions because, according to California Proposition 65, lead is harmful. Okie dokie. So there's the public service announcement out of the way. So basically, the flux is used after you remove the dross to kind of get the tin and to kind of go back into the mix, and the other metals that oxidize to stay on the top. Hopefully that makes sense. So oxidized. Here's the lead wheel weight. You can see the color of it. It's all dark, dirty, okay? Here's an example of the pellets. If you can see, the one here was recently cast. It's nice, shiny, and bright. And this one was cast probably about a year ago. So they just naturally oxidize, okay? And that's where the flux comes in to get, basically, tin is the bullet caster's friend. You want that in there. It's going to help with the fill out of the mold. I'm sorry if I'm going to be babbling, but I'm trying to give James as much information as I can. So now, if you're doing, like I said, fishing weights or slingshot pellets or lead soldiers, none of that really matters unless you're having a problem with the soldiers and your molds aren't filling out. Then tin becomes a concern. But for like fishing weights and these shot for the slingshot, it really doesn't matter. You basically just want to remove the dross or dross, however you want to say it, because that's just the nasty stuff on top. So I'm going to show you how I do it. So I'm going to put in here, this is just what was left over in the bottom from my last pour. I'm going to put in this lead wheel weight, which I've checked and I showed you how to do. I'll throw in these two, and I got a little 1 pound ingot. As you can see, very oxidized, and there's some rusty stuff there. I mean, this was just laying around. So I'm going to get this cooking up. Remember, lead melts at 694 degrees, something like that. All right, so we'll get this melted up, and then I'll show you the rest of the process. All right, so we got a good melt. Everything's molten. Gloves. See all that? You see the clip-on from the wheel weight, how it floats to the top? Now all that other nonsense in there, if you see it, that black stuff that's floating around, that's all the dross. Get that out. So you kind of just skim it like you were skimming a soup or a sauce. Get it out. Just put it on the side. You'll see that. Let me see if I could get... A lot of times I'll use a spoon. I use this one mostly with the slots to get the clip-ons out. But if you see that, see all this? You want that out. Alright, let me use the spoon because I can get it a little bit better. So you're just going to skim it. Kind of push it all over to one side. See that? The lighting's terrible here, but just knock that off. And you should end up with a relatively shiny surface, okay? Now again, I know I'm repeating myself, but if I was making fishing weights or the slingshot pellets, that would be it. I would be good with that. But when I'm doing something for more precision, like the bullets, then I would flux it. And there's so many ways of fluxing it. There's so many different, things that people have used. Sawdust, wax, motor oil. I mean, you name it, people have used it as a flux. I use three main things. Either sawdust, wax, or my bullet lube, which I consider a wax. My bullet lube actually has, it's primarily beeswax. There's Vaseline in it. There's STP. There's Johnson's Paste Wax. I mean, it's got everything in it. So basically what I do is, with the sawdust, I'll just take some sawdust, sprinkle it on top. Right away you can see the smoke. And I use just like, this is a chopstick or a piece of pine or something, and I'll stir it in. Sometimes I'll just use the piece of pine. As you can see right there, it gets charred. Stir it in, scrape the bottom, and this is fluxing. And yes, James, sometimes it bursts into flames. Sometimes this lights into flames. Let me get my glove back on. And you'll see it's all nasty again. Alright, and then you do the same process that you did to get the dross out. You're going to kind of get it all over to a side. See that? Get that off. Now you'll notice too, as you scrape your pot, it'll produce more. Alright, so we got that relatively clean again. So here is some wax. Same wax I use to make my wax canvas. We'll put that in. We'll stir that around. There you go, James. Just let it burn off. Don't worry about it. And there you go. Now if you look at that again, you'll see it formed more of that black stuff on top. And then you would do that process over again and skim it. See that? You get a little bit of lead, but most of this here is what you don't want. So you could use, if you're going to cast, you can use, this is small enough where I could just use this to pour, but you can use a ladle, and you can ladle it out. And if you don't want to do all that other stuff, you can kind of push it out to the side and grab the good stuff. So there you go. That's how I, get rid of the dross, and I do my fluxing. And again, depending on what you're doing it for, is as much detail as you'll put into it. If it's just, fishing weights, whatever. I know I'm repeating myself, but, fishing weights or whatever, just, go for it. It's fine. If you're going to get into casting, then do some more research, because the better you can get your mix, the better your bullets are going to come out. So James, hopefully that helped you. Hopefully anybody else that's watching, it helped them and answered some questions. And like always, everyone, I appreciate all your views and your comments, and I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.